right, guys, welcome to the new Conversation Shop with Cedric Page. We have a very special show scheduled for you today with my very special guest, Susan Tucker. Well, her new name is Miss Susan Welton. Congratulations, Susan, and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Cedric, and I'm so happy to be here with you today. I have so much to say.
Yes, this is part two. We will be discussing today navigating trauma, our second show, and I hope to kind of take us back to our original show where we discussed you being adopted and some of the traumas or things that you've experienced growing up in a Caucasian family. And kind of navigating those experiences into adulthood. So what I'd like to do today is just kind of take my audience back to the original show, and bring us full circle to where you are currently. And we have some very exciting news to share with the audience as well. So I'm really excited about it. So let's just dive right back into the show. So Susan, in the beginning on our first show, we really dove into, you being an Asian young lady who was adopted, who is an adopted person, who is a member of a Caucasian family. And our conversation centered around, what was it like growing up in that environment? Did you experience any traumas? Was it hard to identify? Meaning, what was your definition of beauty when the reflection that you saw wasn't a reflection that looked like you? So, how did that resonate with you?
It's interesting because we've come such a long way, Cedric. And first of all, let me just take a step back. And and by the way, my husband, Kurt, says to say hello, by the way.
Hi, Kurt.
So thank you so much for this process. You were a huge catalyst in my healing. Mm-hmm. And that was to ask me some questions about my upbringing here in Madison. And that has opened up really a huge book of things that I've had to look within and to face some fears, but also to look at within myself and the journey, in my life. So that question about others, women who did not necessarily look like me. So like Charlie's Angels was one of my favorite, heroes while I was growing up, and they didn't look anything like me. However, I don't think that necessarily held me back. I think because I have connected with so many individuals, women who have had trauma or issues with their identity. So I think I had one more issue or layer with my identity, and that was being brought up in a white culture, obviously not really knowing anybody who looked like me. So I think that to a certain degree a disservice, but to a certain degree, I didn't see it as holding me back because I just wanted to jump in. And as you can see, this beautiful family, here are my 4 older brothers. If you can see, and I'm smiling so hard, you guys, here in this picture. And the reason is because my life really started when I came to this country and into this particular family. I felt safe because there was so much trauma, 0 to 7 repressed, right? Mm-hmm. But I got into this family, and because I was safe, I was so happy. You could see the smile from ear to ear. There's my smile as a little kid, right?
Right.
But because I was safe, I moved and drove forward in my life. Nothing was going to stop me. So I had an incredible family father who taught me that you can do anything your 4 older brothers can do. And I proved it to a point of a need to prove my entire life. So the whole identity thing as a female really didn't play into it, Cedric.
But let me ask you a quick question.
Yeah.
Not in terms of the dynamic between the sexes, meaning your male counterparts who may have been your brother. Yes. I'm more talking about the matriarch of your family, your mother. Female, your mother being a Caucasian woman, right? Sure. And as kids, we define ourselves or who we are often through the reflection of the things that we see in our parents, right? Our self-esteem, beauty, those kinds of things. And when you look in the mirror and you look at the portrait, it's obvious that you don't necessarily look like everyone else that's in there. Or maybe as a child, you really didn't notice that, and that's okay. But again, the question is, did it affect you? And then there's one of the secondary questions, real quickly. The second question I'd like you to answer is, when you saw other Asian Americans outside of your family, how did you relate? Or did you even relate?
Yeah. Okay. So I promise to be as vulnerable as humanly possible, because I think there's a lot of your listeners and people in general who are going to find some insight out of this. During that time, when I saw other Asian people, so if we close our eyes and we look out, we only see what's out there, correct?
Right.
And the only time that we can see and distinguish or have a distinction of what we look like is by looking in the mirror. So definitely some identity issues that I probably faced, but I'll tell you, more than identity, I had more in my own family, a need to prove I was as strong. And I think that had a lot to do with worthy issues as a female coming from a culture that they gave up for adoption. So that's a huge piece that I've had to face. And in my subconscious mind, I had to go, whoa, why'd they give me up for adoption? I'm the only girl, and that they kept their boys. So there was a subconscious thought, so driven in my subconscious mind at a young age. I started, instead of worrying about the identity stuff, I just said, I'm going to do everything a man does because I saw it as valuable. Yes. And what I saw in the mirror was this girl, little Asian girl, and I didn't see her as very valuable because I was given up for adoption. So there's a conscious lack of worthiness because a culture gave me up. Right. And so I'm thankful that this wonderful family adopted me. Oh my gosh, they rescued me from trauma.
Let me ask you a question. I hear you say a culture, and I don't necessarily hear you correlated to an individual or your family. So again, from the outside looking in, it's almost sounds like a disassociation a little bit. So I'm just asking you to clarify for me and my audience, because again, you say a culture. When I hear that, I go, how did a culture put you up for adoption when it was? I think what you're saying is because of the norms in the culture that your family was in, it valued boys over girls. And because of those norms, that allowed or forced your family to give you up for adoption because they didn't see the value in a woman's life. Is that what you meant?
Well, that's what I thought. Okay. And then, so here's where, remember when I told you in the very first interview, I didn't know much about my biological family. I now am very connected to them. We're on a chat group, and I found out so much more about my life. So here's where, and I knew I was blessed, Cedric, and that's actually part of my story. And I'm super excited about being able to share this with the world, because I think there are a lot of individuals who have gone through probably what I've gone through. So oftentimes the subconscious mind and what we think that holds us back is very different actually than what was reality. So I thought going through my entire life, jumping into this, family, I was kind of competing and kind of like wanting to prove myself. I was just as strong because my dad said you could do anything a man could do. But part of that drive came from a lack of worthiness in me because I thought they gave me up because I was not valuable. Now, hold on. The truth is, I find out that this whole family, since they gave me up for adoption, have been praying for me. I literally have 40 people in my family, my biological family, which are all Christians. So go figure, right? Yes. Very, very godlike, who have been praying for me and knowing. So it's like the story of Moses. Yes. Okay, where a little baby, and they cast the baby down the river, not knowing, but knowing, at the end of the day that baby is going to be picked up, and it does. And that baby becomes a prince. So long story short, that is actually the story kind of my life. And that has been a blessing from the very beginning. where they gave me up knowing someday that I would have a better life than they could have given me in Korea. Very difficult times, very difficult times. And, there's more to my story and probably too long for us to get into it. And someday.
And actually, no, it's not going to be too long. We're gonna take this in segments.
I know, but there's a solo book coming out where I'll tell more of my story, probably when I'm a little bit more ready to tell it. But in a short period of time, in the very first interview you and I had, and it's only been a couple of years, the amount of healing that I have gone through, and the reason I have had to embrace it is because of literally the breakdowns, and not playing victim. Because the minute that we play victim to anything in our lives, whether it's an experience or whether it's a label or whether it's us putting ourselves in a box or somebody else putting us in a box, we are held back from what potentially we could be and do, because that's what God wants for our lives. So this is where I literally am walking my mission and my purpose for the very first time. I mean, you and I, Cedric, and you and I are the type of individuals, like, you see three different kinds of people in a sandbox when they're very young, right? Little kids. Okay. They're like people like you and I are the types that have the toys. Okay. And then we give our toys away to everybody else.
Yes, we do.
But we're the givers. But there are seriously little children. Whatever reason, they are this way, and they are the takers of the world. They go and they steal other people's toys and they take, right? Those are takers. And third child in the sandbox are the ones, and there are a few of those, but there's still some really nasty kids, and they take the sand in the sandbox and they throw it at other people and throw it in their face, right? And those are the haters. Those are the toxic haters. So I'm just telling you, you and I met, and I do believe God brings people, messengers of light, into each other's life on purpose. And I can't even wait to tell you about the individuals and the masterminds that I have literally created, because I asked and I prayed and I dreamed, but I prayed to God, including the first man I have ever trusted in my entire life. And that is the journey I have gone through. And when I met you, that was when I was like, oh, well, he's in my life for a reason. He's going to challenge me. I'm going to challenge him. We've had those conversations, right? With people, good friends who genuinely have a connection, and we are all connected. You see, I don't put people in boxes. I don't judge people, and I do my best, really. I can never say that I never judge, but I really do my best because I grew up in a white family. I've got a black daughter, right? Like daughter. I've got all these different people. And the only thing my journey and my life experience has taught me is that there are good people, givers like us. Okay, who share ripples of love. They share our healing experience. And there are some serious takers and some people who are nasty and they throw hate at you. And those are just a few individuals. But the only thing, though, that people have to realize is that there is good and there is a spectrum of evil. But if there's a spectrum of good versus evil, but with the spectrum of good versus evil, they come in all colors, they come in all cultures, they come in all genders. So that's the only thing. And so that's, again, this is my opinion. This is my life journey, Cedric. And this is the journey that I have, when I have even individuals and a level of discernment in my business life, honestly, that individuals who claim that they're godly people. Well, you know what? I've got a godly person sitting in prison right now who owes me a ton of money. And guess what? He claimed to be a man of God. I'm like, oh, really? Well, let's see if your actions speak, and they certainly did not, because he's a lot of people including me. So.
Hold that thought.
Yes, I will.
We're going to pick up on that on the next segment.
Perfect.
We'll be right back on the Conversation Shop. Hi guys, welcome back to the Conversation Shop with Cedric Page. I'm here with my very special guest, Miss Susan Welton, where Susan and I are discussing navigating trauma. Susan was a former guest on one of my earlier shows where we were discussing her navigating life as an adopted Asian American woman who was adopted within a Caucasian family. And again, Susan was sharing, her, because of cultural things in her country, the value of women weren't valued as much as boys. And when you're in a country and you're poor, you don't have a lot of money, taking care of a woman may not have as much value as taking care of a young man. And Susan was put up for adoption. She was adopted into a wonderful family. And as she grew and fought to prove her worthiness and navigating some of those things, she again reconnected with her family and realized that, God's purpose, right? They had been praying for her. They're Christians. So they were sending all of that positive energy out to Susan, unbeknownst to her, to push her forward. And to me, it's a testament to God's purpose for all of us, unbeknownst to us. We just walk in it, right? So again, as Susan was talking about her journey, she shared with me that she really didn't look out into the world as from the eyes of race, right? As an Asian woman, just navigating things as a woman who felt unworthy, right? And I shared with Susan that, I can relate to feeling unwanted a little bit and unworthy, having grown up with my grandparents and not growing up with my parents and feeling unworthy, knowing my other siblings were with my parents. So I was the one that felt unworthy. But again, the man that I am today is because of that decision. So how could I question that, right? How could I say I want to change that? Because of that, God's purpose was to move me into being the man that I am today. So again, I just wanted to give a quick synopsis of the kind of conversations that Susan and I had. Again, Susan, we're going to jump right back into the conversation because we're taking our audience on your journey. Yes. So bring us from the show, some of the revelations you had after the show, and then move us into this change from Susan Tucker to Susan Welton.
Oh my gosh. So as I had said previously, Cedric, there was such a great deal of like deer in a headlight. Whoa, I just told the whole world part of my story. And now I better face my fears. I better face the trauma from my past, and connecting with my biological family gave me and connected a lot of the dots that were missing. And so knowing where I landed, it's part of the story coming out. We'll talk about that in the next segment, but there was a lot of trauma there. So I only want to touch on this because we talked about this in the last segment. And that was, there was numerous traumas, and that was, sexual abuse, obviously emotional as well as physical abuse, which I had repressed, meaning that was in my body. And then I didn't realize this, but I reattracted that trauma again in my adolescence, also in my middle school age, high school, college, and then all the way as an adult and, as an entrepreneur. And it was only as an entrepreneur where I was out there kicking butt and really doing, doing quite a bit in the real estate flipping game, because it was shortly after management in restaurants, I got into the entrepreneurial world. The last segment was a lot about how much trauma again and again I faced, financial trauma. And there's a lot of, and here's what I want to say about people who have had traumas. You're going to go into addiction. So I had a workaholic addiction, but trauma can show up as alcoholic addiction. It can come up as drug abuse. It could be food abuse. It could be sex abuse. I mean, there's so many addictions out there. And so anybody who has an addiction that's not a positive addiction, and most addictions are not positive, will find themselves by facing it, they'll start to realize what is it that you're doing. So addiction oftentimes keeps us and keeps us doing a behavior that is not necessarily healthy to repress often the trauma so you don't have to look at it. So for me, it was me racing forward, conquering the world, improving myself as an entrepreneur, as a woman in kind of a male-dominated industry.
Let me ask you a quick question.
Yes.
Quick question. Just for clarification. And again, workaholic, explain to me what having because there's people out here who say, I'm a workaholic, but I don't think that's what you mean. Would you feel comfortable or elaborating a little bit on what that?
Oh yeah, so I started off as a banker, then I got into flipping properties. I did one flip and I made more money in flipping a property. So then I said, okay, I'm giving up my job to jump into the entrepreneurial world. Ended up flipping a couple properties. As an entrepreneur, everybody knows as an entrepreneur, you're going to get your butt whooped. And what I mean by that is there's lessons to be learned and you're going to make a lot of mistakes. That's part of being an entrepreneur. Most people think you're going to be really successful immediately. That's not true. You better just acknowledge and embrace failing a couple times before you really succeed. And so I didn't really know that, but what ended up happening is I'm a helper of the world. As you know, I'm a giver. And so what I did was I helped other people get into real estate. There was real estate education. I was selling and then, trying to flip properties. I didn't have a team at that time. So I was doing so much to want to help others. I wasn't helping myself. And so what I ended up doing is literally my days would look like I'd get up at maybe 6 o'clock in the morning, drive all the way, through my day. I would probably stay on the computer until 2 o'clock in the morning. So I would literally work 18, 20-hour days often for years. Okay. And the reason I had to run as fast as I could is because then if any moment I had time of my own and not juggling these plates, the past would come up. What we resist continues to, persist in our life until you face your darkness, until you look in the mirror and go, what's up with this stuff? And so I'm coaching a lot of people right now who've had trauma, who have had their own darkness. We got to look at their addictions. We got to look at why are you putting yourself into financial traumas? Why? Are you allowing individuals, to hurt you? Why are you not setting boundaries? I mean, there's just so many things. Why are you in abusive relationships and you choose to stay there? And why are you then getting out of one and going into another? These are patterns. And people don't understand that when you've been violated at a very young age, violated, and I mean abused, then what's going to end up happening is you're going to have a pattern of attracting this type of thing in every direction you go. And can I share with you an experience right now that's very different because I have chosen to look, so my past used to look like no team. There's nobody to count on. There's nobody to trust because I had a trust issue. But yet in the financial world, there were some times where I trusted too much. And I wanted to believe what people, would say. And then I would have to learn that I had to watch their actions to see if it met, obviously, what they say. That's integrity. But going back to this space of spinning plates, having partners that were not givers, and that's not a good thing, is to have partners who are not like you. And so from everything I created from trauma, and what I mean by that is everybody that I was pretty much working with at that time, I would have to say that I didn't have a team to rely on. I didn't have a thing. So because I created that world, of unequal partnerships and all of that stuff and putting myself into situations again and again and again, where I hurt myself, I finally got into the space of, whoa, we all co-create our lives every second, every minute, every hour, every day of our lives. I was smart enough to know at that time, what are you doing, Susan? You're recreating this over and over and you're playing victim. When we have patterns in our life, and we really want to change those patterns, it is patterns from our future, from our past that can be changed to then drastically change what shows up in our future. So by healing my wounds, my trauma, where I didn't and couldn't trust men, I couldn't trust women because I have had numerous women hurt me, betray my trust. And I couldn't understand. I'm like, why am I showing up in the world? And I have women who continue to betray my trust, act like and compete with me and throw their insecurities at me. I didn't get it. And it's partially because I have this light about me, I think, that I
You
knew.
do have a light.
Do I? Well, I
Yes,
have no
you do.
idea what the light is. Didn't know, except I got bounced around like a ping pong machine with people taking advantage, or women who I thought were going to be good people, but betray my trust in one way or the other. And I'm like, what are you doing? So I finally, and since the time I met you on this first conversation shop, I really had to dig deep and go, why are you creating this experience again and again? And it comes from my early childhood experiences of an aunt who hated me.
Mm.
She hated me. She beat me. Okay. She told me how much she hated me. She told me how much I was not wanted. So that not being wanted, trust me, I know that story. I was sexually abused by a man that I should have trusted, because you know what? You would think family, you should be able to trust. They should be able to teach you love. They didn't teach me love. They treated me and taught me hate. But yet God, and so I met Satan through them, okay? But I met God. And that's part of my story, is that I met God at the age of 5. And you know what God said to me? God said, Susan, or it wasn't Susan, it was little one. You're going to be okay. Little one, you're going to be okay. That's when I became Susan at the age of 7, when I came and was adopted into the, Tucker family, knowing that God promised me I was going to be okay. Guess what? I was okay.
Hold that thought.
Yeah.
Hold that thought. We're going to pick up that on the next segment. We'll be right back on the Conversation Shop. Welcome back to the Conversation Shop with Cedric Page. I'm here with my very special guest, Miss Susan Welton. And Susan, we're going to dive right back into the show. We were discussing the traumas that you had experienced in your country at the hands of people that you trusted, at the hands of family members, and talking about, coming into this beautiful family that saved you in America. And again, I want you to pick up there and finish taking my audience on your journey.
Okay, so I had talked about the trauma, then meeting God, little one, you're going to be okay, bam. 2 years later, I'm adopted into this beautiful Tucker family. But here's the caveat. I jumped in, and because I didn't want to be sent back to hell, hell, what I felt like was hell, I chose to be this perfect person. It still is a mask or it's a heavy burden I still carry, to this day. And there's a ton of people out there. I know there's a lot of listeners who have a need to be perfect syndrome, and it will stem from their childhood. And mine was really during survival. I wanted to survive this family. I was not going to be sent back to hell. And in my little 7-year-old mind, I thought if I was somehow bad or not perfect, they were going to send me back. They would never have done that, Cedric. But how does a little 7-year-old with so much trauma know that? So I chose to be perfect. I didn't let them in. I didn't know what trust was, because when you have violation and trust broken as a very little one, how do you know what trust is? You don't. You have all things that create more trauma in your life. And so I had so much trauma in my life. But that's when you and I had that first conversation of where I aired all the stuff that happened. But I was faced to see what I co-created. So I may have created a whole lot of trauma, financial traumas, and some abusive relationships and toxic relationships with men and women. But I knew if I created that, if I heal, could I co-create good and trusting relationships? See, that's why you came, I think, into my life, was to challenge me in so many ways that I was forced to face my healing. Kurt came into my life as he was healing physically. I was forced to face this healing. And guess what? In a very short period of time, because if you really think about it, I'm close to 50 years old, and I've been repressing all this trauma my entire life. But guess what? I heard the message from God, and God said, you heal every darkness, every fear, everything that was dark that you've been hiding from, running from, whatever you can do to, put it in a box and lock it up. You open it, you face it, you make darkness your friend. And guess what? Working through and embracing this healing, I have everything I could possibly want in my life. And the reason is because I did the hard work to face those fears.
Yes.
If I co-created toxic, unhappy, craziness in my life, I can co-create everything good. But that means I have to shift my subconscious mind in knowing that I deserve better. I deserve good. I deserve a team. I deserve people who treat me well. I expected it. And there was you, friend. There was, my husband who came into my life. And do you know, going into this relationship with Kurt, it took, you can ask him sometime, but it took years of triggers, years of me going, oh my gosh, she's going to treat me the same way as my past, and he's going to hurt me, he's going to hurt me, he's going to hurt me. Right. I had to walk one step at a time forward. He and I were supposed to be married 3 years ago. Do you know that? We were supposed to be married around the time of our first conversation shop, Cedric, but I sabotaged it. And the reason I sabotaged it was, I had such a lack of worthiness, and I've got my hanky just in case I need it. But I had such a lack of worthiness. How could he love somebody who's so broken, who obviously created so much like shame,
Yeah, but isn't that what love is? Isn't that what love is all about?
To love.
Real love, right? That's real love, right? That's the love that God wants us to have, right?
Bingo. That's unconditional love.
Unconditional love.
Conditional. And yet it's weird because I had this light and I knew unconditional love from God. And that's why I could be the light for others and love on them. But they saw something else and, did some things. And yet I had to learn. Those were all my lessons and mistakes to have discernment and a level of discernment in the spiritual battle. The spiritual battle is really, really deep. And right now, he and I are extremely selective, and the people we want to surround ourselves really with. Yeah. And that is the good, the people who are selfless, the people who, want to do initiatives for good here in Madison, and shine a bright light into the darkness. And this is where from the first day, and like I said, sabotage because of the shame. I'm like, well, you're almost 50 years old. How can you wear a white, beautiful, pure white dress down an aisle in front of 350 people? Seriously, that was my biggest block, shame block. You can't wear a pure white dress in front of 350 people who don't know your story and know your stuff. What a mess. And thank God, because of COVID, it's been actually quite the blessing, because you know what? We had a beautiful, intimate ceremony. Mm-hmm. And we had just a witness, and we're going to have a huge party next year. I mean, in 2022, we're just going to have a huge ball. We're going to have so much fun, and we're both ready for something.
But isn't the wedding, isn't it for you anyway, for you and him?
Yeah.
Isn't it a celebration of love? It's about that commitment between a man and a woman and God, right? Yes. And again, just reminding you, you're just walking in your purpose, right? So from the time you were adopted, right? Yeah. You heard that voice, right? Yes. Your family, everything in life is laid out before us, right? We just walk in it. So, right? You're walking in your purpose. You're with your husband, and now you have the ability to help other people.
Yes.
And isn't that amazing, right? Isn't that amazing?
And it's amazing that you get that, Cedric. And that's why everything you just spoke is what I've actually been walking. Mm-hmm. And yet only God knows who you are and what you're meant to be on this planet, right? You just have to walk it. You have to follow God's will. Just love unconditionally like God loves us. So to meet somebody who loves me unconditionally every single day, it's been phenomenal because he gives me strength. But I also know, unconditional love from God gives me my strength, right? But now I'm finally at a point, after all these mistakes, all the breakdowns, blah, 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 all the trauma, that I am walking my purpose and my mission, and that is to help traumatized people everywhere. The impact and the people I want to serve is every single person who's had trauma in their life, Cedric. This is my walk. This is my mission. This is my purpose. And I'm so Oh, I'm so fired up because I know this is God's will for my life. So I had to have every breakdown. I had to have all the trauma. I had to have all of it to be where I am, to move forward and take one step. Now I will tell you the honest truth. And that is, it took me a long time to face the fear of marrying who could potentially have been my best friend. That was like the bright light. But then I'm like, oh, but what if he's like this? No, best friend, confidant. Two individuals who mastermind literally, and I've been asking for that. I've been praying God for masterminds every single day, and they continue to show up. And so first, it was meeting the person, only one person I've ever trusted in my entire life, and that is Kurt. And then all of a sudden, the doors open everywhere. I'm looking now because it's no more trauma because I've healed that. And all of a sudden, there's tests of discernment, but there's doors opening, bam, 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 bam. And there are people who are showing up, not like the past. I've got sisterly love. I've got brotherly love now with individuals that looks completely, you have no idea, the different cultures and the different, places we grew up, but we're all in the same journey. And that's the exciting part right now, is that you are right. I am walking my mission. I'm walking my purpose, and it's all for the glory of God. And
you deserve to be happy, and you deserve all of the blessings that you have. And you need to speak that out loud. You, Susan Welton, deserve it.
But you know what? Can I say something to that? That deserves, because I love that. I always say to people, we don't need anything. We deserve as you work through your inner stuff. Here's the thing with trauma and people who've had a great deal of trauma, we have to unlearn what trauma does to our minds and our bodies. And so as we go through healing, we allow ourselves to have a little bit more fun, coming from an alcoholic to having a little bit more fun and doing things that move my spirit. But we have to allow the good into our lives. So to be perfectly honest, to face the biggest fear of could it be my best friend, I had to allow his love into my life. And that is just connecting with the unconditional love from God and knowing that in the right union with the right person, you're going to flow this unconditional love together. And then others will be able to feel the unconditional love from God and what we can do then for others. It's about serving. It's about what we can do to help other people on their healing journey. That's what I feel like my mission is.
And I love our friendship as well, because our friendship is based on that unconditional caring and love for each other, where we respect each other. We respect one another's opinions. We value one another's opinions. And, I think you give me balance in a lot of ways because you challenge me. And my hope is that I challenge you and do the same for you.
For sure. You've supported me through this healing journey. You were the first one to ask some questions that nobody else asked. And I went, whoa, that's an interesting question. I've never looked at that. Let's look in, do the inner work, and that started a spiral of beautiful blessings, which I'm now finally walking right now. And I can't even tell you where my life's going to take me, but I'm just taking one step at a time, Cedric, just one. That's all I'm shown is just one step, Susan, just take one step at a time.
Well, on this one step at a time thing, on the next segment, we're really gonna talk about this one step at a time and how it's led you into this amazing opportunity where you have a book coming out where you're sharing your story. So on the next segment, we're going to discuss Ignite the Hunger in You. We'll be right back on The Conversation Shop. Welcome back to The Conversation Shop. I'm here with my very special guest, Miss Susan Welton, formerly known as Miss Susan Tucker. We are here discussing navigating trauma, and this is our part 2. On the last segment, Susan, we were discussing your journey and how you've had some great, what's the word I'm looking for? You've had some, your mind has been open in a lot of different ways. You understand your journey. You understand where you are currently. And on the last segment, I told my audience that this led you into being a part and telling your story within this book called Ignite the Hunger in You. So tell us about your journey and tell us about your book.
Woo! Oh, this is going to be fun. So, we could talk about trauma probably all day long. And here's the message about people who have overcome trauma or are dealing with trauma who want to overcome trauma. And that is, there's not a person walking on this planet that doesn't have some trauma. There's some individuals that are going to have a lot more. And those who have a lot of trauma, the sooner that you can actually embrace the healing process, I tell you, past trauma, you can literally live the life of your dreams. And I am a testimony to that because of what I've gone through, obviously. But the people that I'm talking to, the individuals I'm helping overcome trauma and then, attract the relationships that they're looking, dreaming about. And I get these texts and feedback from individuals. So there's people who are absolutely walking their path because they choose to heal. And so that really is the biggest message right now with individuals that are facing a lot of trauma. Just embrace that healing and find somebody who's going to help them there. Okay, so obviously getting past the biggest chapter really of my life, and that was to get married for the very first time. And meeting my best friend and being on that path. So we've only been married for less than 6 months, and immediately this opportunity literally happens to drop in my lap. Here's what happened. So prior to us getting married, Kurt knew about my story and he's like, wouldn't that be cool that you write a book or something? Maybe we should think about finding an author because I always say to myself, and here's the stories, right? I'm not a writer. I'm more of a speaker. So I'm like, ooh, I don't know if I could do that. And he's like, no, it would be awesome. And I think we should attract somebody who's a really famous writer or author or something, and maybe they can help you with this process. So long story short, we both had it. We were masterminding, threw it out there like any other intention. So again, the Bible says, ask and ye shall receive. Ask and ye shall receive. Well, guess what? So from asking into the universe to share my story, this particular opportunity literally lands in my lap. It wasn't the original author who I thought. And it came through a series of friends who got me onto this app called Clubhouse, which I've also invited you to, because there are tons of individuals with a ton of value, incredible, godly people who are now have already made their successes and now are willing to give back and contribute and serve others. Okay. So through one person to the next, I got on the app and met JB Brown, who is my publisher. Now she is right here. Okay, right there.
Okay.
I got to share this quick story because she looks like somebody who is a woman in my past that actually betrayed my trust. And I just released this block not too long ago. And she already knows this. Yes. So she was sent into my life to be a bright beacon of light to help heal that wound. Okay. This person cost me a lot of money, like more than a house. Okay. And so it was a really deep wound. And this woman has come into my life to be a bright, shining light to heal that wound for me, as I've asked for brotherly and sisterly, especially sisterly love, because like I said, I've been betrayed by a lot of women, right? And so now I said, nope, don't need any of that, my past. What I really want is inspirational beacon of lights that are sisterly. And they're just keep showing up. They keep showing up. Do you know why I have this book in my hand today?
No, tell me.
Because I just did an interview with another big sister 2 days ago, and it was only a very quick 10-minute interview, but that's what got me really, really fired up because I've been resistant to doing podcasts. And all of a sudden this timely. So this is why I'm so excited about sharing my story, because I was so resistant. But because that big sister, okay, did the interview, she sent me as a gift today, and I opened this just a little bit ago.
Oh, wow.
So yes, I've ordered my own. It's going to take another, week or whatever to get it. But I'm like, oh, wouldn't that be cool? again, setting my intention, wouldn't that be cool? I get this book, and so I could share it on live with Cedric. And not kidding, Kurt literally brings it home to me and says, this Jody lady sent it to you. So here it is.
That's intention called walking in your purpose, right?
And it's a gift from another gift, who is this spiritual, wonderful, wonderful beacon of light, who now I've asked for. So here, do you see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Know what you don't want, because oftentimes trauma creates that. But when you can get into the space of healing, and then in a space of, so there's a big difference between survival
Mm-hmm.
and creational energy. This is what I teach a lot of people who are out there who have a lot of trauma. They're in the survival energy. And in survival energy, you're not able to really set an intention and create and attract. It's two very different extreme energies.
So tell me something real quick.
Yes.
Tell me and my audience,
Yeah.
you know, give us some of the juicies that are in this book. You know, what can we expect to learn about your journey, or the journeys of some of the other inspiring women and men that are telling their stories in this book? Tell me what's so interesting. Tell me more about this book and your story within this book.
Okay, so here, let me show you. Do you see all those faces?
Yes.
All different backgrounds, all different, places. I mean, this is a lot of people. This is an international book. First of all, there are a lot of Canadians in this book as well. So it's an international book, but if you can look, there are such diverse backgrounds. And what's really cool is that every single one of these people, this is my Ignite family, okay, who I ask for, again, individuals that are inspirational because they have overcome the darkness in order to become the light. Every single person in this book has an inspirational story of overcoming. That's why this is so powerful in a time like this, where, again, there's a level of darkness that's happening in the world, fear, and people are being pulled down into, energies. And why all of these individuals, by sharing their story of healing or overcoming. And so there's, so many people that I'm so excited to be able to collaborate with. And Jody, just the other day, who did a interview, with me. So she sponsors an orphanage, hundreds of children in Kenya. This is this beautiful woman. The profit of this book is going towards building a school in Cambodia, by the way. So
really?
Absolutely. Talk about a humanitarian, project. And I've told you, and Cedric, that it's all about serving people, and it's all about helping people, because you know what, I truly believe that. So does Kurt, that, we go through a journey in life, and once you get to a point, then it's all about serving people, helping those. And right now, our biggest thing right now is helping those that are very vulnerable. And so I don't think you and I have mentioned it, I think back in, passing with our texts and everything, but we're going to eradicate human trafficking. I mean, that's something we want to get rid of in our backyard, which is so prevalent. It's such a scourge. It's so nasty. A lot of people don't even want to believe it's here, but really bad. And we're going to,
Tell my audience how they can reach out to you, learn more about the book.
Yes.
Purchase the book. Don't forget to give us that.
Yes, SusanWelton.com. I forgot to say that at the very beginning. It's really easy. SusanWelton.com is a lot easier than to remember Warrior of Light Healing. That's not the same. It's the same site, but SusanWelton.com, and then they can pre-order this. It's only $1.99. And when it launches, the book will go to, it's going to increase the price. So right now is the best time to download this and to pre-order it, because you're not only getting my story, but you're getting all of these incredible people who are walking their mission, their ministries. That's what they're doing. And I get to be part of this huge family. Do you see what I mean? I mean,
I think it's amazing.
Bam, these people come into your life, brotherly, sisterly love, and masterminds. And that's the other thing with Les Brown. I'm in a speaking community as well. So I would definitely like to do more speaking engagements and really share my story of healing, because what, everybody deserves healing.
Yes, we do.
That's when they can then, embrace the life of their dreams. Really, God has a purpose for our lives. We just got to walk it. We've got to heal. We got to continue to, have faith and trust in His purpose in our life.
Now tell my local audience what you're doing here locally, and how what you're doing in the community?
Yes. Well, so you know what? And I have not set those up yet, but Cedric, I can make sure that when I have book signings, since I plan on having book signings,
Yes.
it probably will be at like Barnes and Nobles.
Yes.
As well as the Frugal Muse. They are wonderful people right on the west side on Odana.
Yes.
They have been a huge instrumental piece of my own healing. Every time I needed a book and I wanted to order, a brand new book, I just emailed them. They ordered it. It took a couple days, and bam, I was able to read a new book. I mean, I've gotten so many books there that I'm probably going to do a book signing there.
Okay.
So I'll get you that information when I have them, but that'll be later in December. But again, SusanWelton.com, they can actually just go there and download the book directly.
Yes.
And if they're, so.
Well, Susan, when you do have your book signing, I'll make sure that I share that with my audience. I also want to make sure that there we go. There she is. My amazing friend.
Sorry.
I want to thank you personally for being a guest on the show and for sharing your amazing journey and your amazing story with my audience. I think you are an amazing woman and very, very inspiring. To you and Kurt, I send my blessings and my well wishes. I'm very happy for you and your family. I look forward to dinner and celebrating with you guys your marriage sometime really soon.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Absolutely. And cheers to our future partnership collaborations, whatever that looks like, Cedric.
Yes, I will be joining the clubhouse today.
Good. Oh, wonderful.
Okay.
Good.
I'll be joining that today.
Good.
But again, I thank you. And to my audience,
Thank you.
see you next time on The Conversation Shop.